The hero of the internet has returned. What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy, the wisest and most powerful of all nerds, Brymeezus. With the recent release of the latest Nintendo Direct showcasing the upcoming Nintendo Switch, as well as some upcoming games, including the one I'm most excited for, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I decided to make a top 10 list showcasing my favorite video game franchise. That's right, you guessed it, The Legend of Zelda. I'm sure this list is going to cause some sort of controversy no matter how many fans agree with it. That's just because of the nature of us Zelda fans. For the record, I believe that all the Zelda games were great except for the ones that weren't licensed by Nintendo. But with the upcoming release of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I wanted to make a top 10 list of the Zelda games that I felt had the biggest impact on the series and or enjoyed the most. And while The Legend of Zelda is my favorite video game franchise, I believe that there is no such thing as a perfect video game. Like movies, video games are works of art and are constantly evolving. So while a classic game may have been exemplary in its day and time, and still may be enjoyable to play today, there are plenty of games that exist nowadays that simply have more to offer due to advancements in technology and game development. I would like to acknowledge the first Legend of Zelda. I'm sure there's going to be many Zelda purists out there that are going to cry because this game is not number one. And many other Zelda fans that may also cry when their favorite game does not make the top spot. However, most video game historians will agree that the original Legend of Zelda is the most influential game in video game console history. It has so many aspects about it that revolutionize how we play and enjoy video games today, such as enabling you to save your progress, allowing players to not have to worry about completing the game in one sitting. The Legend of Zelda is about a young boy named Link who has to save the Kingdom of Hyrule and Princess Zelda from the evil sorcerer named Ganon. While starting off only equipped with a tunic, a wooden shield, and a wooden sword, Link goes on a quest to liberate the Kingdom of Hyrule by conquering dungeons and fighting items such as the bow and arrow, bombs, boomerang, and more powerful swords, including fighting the pieces of the mystical Triforce that will bring him the power to defeat the evil sorcerer Ganon. The original Legend of Zelda allowed players to wander around aimlessly with little to no direction. This gave a sense of exploration that was not found in any other game in that era, as well as discovery. If you knew what you were doing, then The Legend of Zelda would have been the shortest game of the entire franchise. But if you were to play the game blindly with no type of map or strategy guide, it would have taken you a considerable amount of time and tremendous amount of trial and error before you were able to complete the game, let alone discover all that the game has to offer. Hyrule Warriors is one of the biggest deviants from the typical Legend of Zelda game design. Hyrule Warriors brought a lot of elements into the franchise, such as downloadable content and off-screen play. My bad, off-screen play was actually first seen in Four Swords Adventure. When it comes to sheer amount of content, Hyrule Warriors eclipses that of any other Zelda game in the franchise, and even most other games that exist today outside of massive multiplayer online games. In fact, one of my best friends and I are still trying to complete this game to this very day with our busy schedules, being the completionists that we are. Arguably the best selling point of Hyrule Warriors is the option to play from over 30 different characters from the Zelda franchise, including villains such as Ganon, the King of Evil himself, and 10 or so other characters that made their debut in Hyrule Warriors. Unlike other Zelda games where there is a huge emphasis on puzzles and exploration, Hyrule Warriors' main focus is action. However, there is a story mode, and quite an interesting one, that combines the stories of the franchise throughout the ages, not to mention the additional story that can be purchased with downloadable content. While it is very true that Hyrule Warriors is a beat-em-up game that can be very repetitive and brainless, for the hardcore gamer it provides tons of after-game content with satisfying amount of difficulty, but for the Zelda completionist it provides the most extensive amount of replay value out of any video game the series has offered so far. The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass is the first 3D handheld Zelda game to come out for the Nintendo DS, and is also the direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. It is also the first Zelda game to feature online multiplayer. However, the online functionality was bubblegum and rudimentary compared to the main story / solo player aspect of the game.
This game debuted one of the most well-loved supporting roles in the Legend of Zelda franchise, Rhinebeck. What made this game such an exceptional addition to the franchise is the adaptation of controls to the 3DS system. The controls for the 3DS allowed players to use weapons in ways that were never possible before, as well as provide innovative puzzles that were never seen before within the franchise. A major improvement that was seen in the Phantom Hourglass over its predecessor, the Wind Waker, was the ability to use the stylus to control his boat, where he could draw out courses on the map as well as draw out maneuvers to combat enemies and bosses that were seen in the game. Though it was a handheld game, it offered as much content as other 3D Zelda games that came out for the household consoles. The sense of exploration and discovery was just as profound. Another game where fans might complain about its placement on the list. This game was the first to give us the staple Legend of Zelda format, where players have to progress through 3 primary dungeons before getting access to most of the map and the overall scope of the game. Instead of finding the majority of the weapons and items across the world, players primarily found the essential paraphernalia needed to progress in the game within the main dungeons. The gameplay mechanics have improved greatly from its predecessors, which allowed Link to use his weaponry in more intuitive ways to combat enemies and solve puzzles. Link can now swing his sword horizontally, throw his boomerang diagonally, pick up and throw his bombs, etc. Also seen for the first time in the series was Link's spin attack, which could attack multiple enemies within a certain radius. In the 16-bit era, A Link to the Past offers some of the most intense and exhilarating boss battles of any video game of its time, as well as the most compelling and heart-moving music. The game debuted a lot of staple and frequently used items within the franchise, including the irrefutably most beloved weapon in video games, Link's signature weapon, the Master Sword, as well as a few iconic ones such as the grappling hook and fire rod.
Majora's Mask is a direct sequel to what many people consider to be the greatest game of all time, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask had perhaps the darkest story within the Legend of Zelda franchise, which spawned more fan fiction from this game than any other. Majora's Mask had the fewest amount of dungeons out of any other 3D Zelda game and also had less weaponry to collect.
But in lieu of collecting weaponry in Majora's Mask, instead the player obtains masks which gave Link new abilities, including the ability to transform into different species of the Zelda lore, granting Link unique powers he never possessed in any other game, such as the ability to shapeshift into a Goron, which increases weight and strength drastically, as well as allowing him to turn into a living spike cannonball that can smash through boulders. By collecting all of the masks within the game, this allowed Link to transform into his most fan favorite transformation, the Fierce Deity Link. Also, unlike other Zelda games, Majora's Mask had players play on a 3-day time limit, which put a lot of pressure on players when it came to exploration and completing dungeons. Similar to Ocarina of Time, players were able to go back and forward into time as well as slow down or even speed up the pace of it. Players are not able to seamlessly save their game in the middle of playing as they could in other Zelda games. Instead, they're only allowed to save at owl statues that are located throughout the world map. NPCs are not stagnant. Instead, they have schedules to abide by. Certain game events only trigger at certain times and can only be revisited if the player resets time itself, which was far more tedious than boat sailing in the original Wind Waker, causing the player to wait for events unnecessarily. In the original Majora's Mask that came out for the N64, it was a bit cumbersome to work around the time limit mechanic in addition to saving your game. In the release for Majora's Mask for the 3DS, time travel and the save mechanic are far more seamless by giving the player more control on how they can move through time, alleviating inconveniences that detracted from the gameplay in the original version. Despite the improvements in the re-release, most people prefer the prequel, The Ocarina of Time, due to the unrestrained gameplay, more dungeons, and being able to play as adult Link with the Master Sword. What makes the compelling story of Majora's Mask a fan favorite among Zelda enthusiasts is how it touches the concept of death, fear, hope, and rejuvenation. Environments were far more detailed and NPCs had more depth in comparison to the Ocarina of Time counterparts. However, this was easier since Majora's Mask was much smaller in size in comparison to Ocarina.
Wind Waker is the first 3D Zelda game to be featured on the GameCube. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is an exceptional addition to the series, though it did receive a love-hate response from the fans. Primarily due to the direction of the art design, and secondly due to the tedious sailboat mechanic within the game. Regardless, it's still a critically acclaimed installment with phenomenal gameplay and art design.
For the first time in the Zelda franchise, the game featured a cel-shaded look which made the game seem more like a cartoon than an actual video game. The art style was unique at the time, and its era offered the largest world map in the franchise and one of the largest maps seen outside of a massive multiplayer online game. One of the key items in the game, the Wind Waker, was used to control the direction of the wind, teleport, switch between day and night, change time, and even mind control other characters. This led to some interesting puzzles, game, and design elements that haven't been seen in any other game before it. The combat in Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker is enhanced and sped up compared to its predecessor, the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, allowing Link to sword strike much faster, counter better, and even use his enemies' weapons. The re-release for the Wind Waker HD, has seen a number of upgrades to the original, such as dramatically increased graphics and visuals, more seamless gameplay such as an inventory functionality and automatic change of wind while sailing. This version also offered a hero mode and off-screen play. Wind Waker is also the most graphically impressive Zelda game to date. Technically a 3D Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds followed the same art design as the direct prequel A Link to the Past. A Link Between Worlds offers everything that its predecessor did and more, but most importantly, breaking away from the linear format that was installed in the previous iterations of Zelda, and returning, if not improving, on its roots from the original Legend of Zelda game. Full of much more life and offers a much more compelling story than A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds offers several unique plot twists that even long-term Zelda fans could enjoy, such as giving more depth to the lore of the Dark Realm that we now know as Hyrule. After completing the third dungeon within the game, players are allowed complete autonomy in which order they would like to tackle dungeons and explore the world map, as players are given the option to rent or even buy items ahead of time instead of discovering them by completing dungeons. Another added feature to the gameplay is the ability to become a painting on the wall, a big focus on the game's plot which allows players to solve puzzles that have never been done before and adds more depth to the boss battles in the game. A Link Between Worlds did offer some online functionality, however it was primarily lackluster and unnoteworthy, but nothing that could detract from the game itself.
This is the part of the video where people are going to start sending death threats because this particular game is not number one on the list. In the mid-90s, where 3D games began to become the norm of the industry, Nintendo began to reimagine several of their original IPs that had 2D origins into the 3D landscape, such as Mario, Star Fox, and you guessed it, The Legend of Zelda. One could argue that the Ocarina of Time is just as influential to the video game industry, or at very least the franchise itself, as the original Legend of Zelda. Many mechanics and concepts were introduced and adapted into the series with Ocarina.
These came in the form of cutscenes, first-person shooting, camera controls, horseback riding, and instrument playing. One of the most prolific inductions to Zelda and 3D games as a whole was Z-targeting. By pressing the Z button on the N64 control pad, players could lock on and focus on a single target. This allowed Link to use a lot of his weaponry such as the hook shot and especially the bow and arrows in third-person view. This was extremely helpful when fighting against airborne foes because you no longer had to aim manually in first-person view. Ocarina of Time opened our minds to how puzzles could be solved in the 3D landscape. The narrative and screenplay showed players that the lore of Zelda could be much deeper than we initially thought. Very few games have had as much success transitioning from the 2D to 3D as The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time has introduced us to a galaxy of new possibilities regarding the franchise while also staying true to nearly everything Zelda represents. The re-release of Ocarina of Time for the 3DS gave a few significant improvements, such as sharper and smoother graphics, gyroscopic controls, a master quest, and fixing inventory mapping that made one dungeon in the game notoriously irritating. A testament of Ocarina's greatness is not only was it the highest rated game on the N64, but its re-release held that title for quite some time on the 3DS as well.
The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was the flagship launch title of the Nintendo Wii, which did a marvelous job of showcasing what the system could do up to that point.
What puts Twilight Princess so high on the list is that it takes many aspects that were featured in other games and improved upon them to near perfection, such as horseback riding that was featured in Ocarina of Time, weapon combination that was seen in Link's Awakening, sword techniques featured in Minish Cap, and a parallel world to the Twilight Realm akin to the Dark Realm seen in A Link to the Past, just to name a few. The combat in Twilight Princess is a combination between Wind Waker and Minish Cap. Over the course of the journey, Link acquires new combat skills similar to how he did in Minish Cap, and performs techniques similar to how he did in Wind Waker. but in a manual form of input with a few brand new techniques as well. This is also the first Zelda game that allows sword fighting while horseback riding, which leads to memorable moments that are some of my favorite within the series. Up until this point, Twilight Princess offers some of the most difficult puzzles as well as the most intricate dungeon design to this day. The musical score in Twilight Princess irrefutably is the most intense in the entire series, giving the game a more epic feel.
Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess not only set a new standard for 3D Zelda games, but also set a new standard for action-adventure games during the first HD era as a whole.
A testament to this is the re-release of Twilight Princess for Wii U, which out of all the Zelda game remakes offered the least amount of additional content, simply because there wasn't much to improve on a game this good other than rendering it to give it more of an HD look. Unless you're accustomed to playing the GameCube version of Twilight Princess, the changes are almost entirely unnoticeable.
At least I know that there's going to be a lot of Zelda fans that will go to sleep happy knowing that this game is at the top of the list. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is one of the very last games to be released on the Nintendo Wii. Skyward Sword takes place in the very beginning of the Legend of Zelda timeline and goes over the creation of Link's signature weapon, the Master Sword, along with how the original Legend of Zelda started with the origin of Link, Ganon, and Zelda. Far, it's the only home Zelda game that did not receive a re-release, and that's simply because the game is so amazing that it's not needed.
The art design of this game is a combination of the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. Everything in this game is bright and colorful and very close to cel shadedness, but the character designs themselves resemble much like their Twilight Princess counterparts. The music in this game is a mixture of all themes that can be found in all the Zelda games, but is most similar to Twilight Princess. There is a much broader edge to it. Similar to how Twilight Princess showcased what the Nintendo Wii could do at the start, Skyward Sword utilizes the Wii Motion Plus, which allows for much more avenues of gameplay, and showcases what the Nintendo Wii was capable of doing throughout its lifespan. Skyward Sword offered one-to-one motion controls, which changed what was formerly wild swinging that was seen in every other Zelda game into calculated formatic strikes. Many of Link's arsenal found new adaptations with the Wii Remote, such as the ability to roll bombs and use Link's tether, as well as the most clever, intuitive, and intricate puzzles that were seen in the series to date, such as using time blocks to alter your surroundings and solve puzzles in ways that we never imagined before.
Thank you guys very much for watching another Top 10 production by your homeboy, King Brymesus. As you guys know the deal, the fun is not over. I, Brymesus, would like to share my peace and blessings over the interwebs by giving away these prizes. First, we have a portable Legend of Zelda cooler that is shaped like a quiver, like Link has. And also, we have the poster that you often see on the backdrop for this video. This backdrop right here, this backdrop right here.
All you have to do is subscribe to me on YouTube at King Chimera, and also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or like me on Facebook at King Chimera. Share one of my videos and tag me in the post for a chance to win one of these prizes, as well as one of 5 King Chimera shirts. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys very soon.